Hello everyone, it is Wazaldo or Wesley, and today I am playing OP15 for the first time, at least the first time on the channel. I am going to be playing Moria, a leader that I probably wrote off a little bit too much, but I am really excited for now that OP15 is giving it a little bit more support. Now the biggest piece of support is this new hogback that lets you trash the top 5 cards of your deck on play, and then on KO it does draw you a card, which is really strong just because Gecko Moria can struggle with hand size sometime. This deck is largely inspired by Abster's list. You can find him on Twitter and YouTube under the name AbsterTCG. A really good Moria player, really inspired me to make this list. It's a little bit modified, so check out his list if you haven't seen it yet and let me know what you think. Anyways, the new support is this hogback, which is really strong. Like I said, trashes the top 5 cards from your deck, and then on KO, if you have 6 or less cards in your hand, you can draw 1 card, which is really strong, like I said, because Gecko struggles with hand size a little bit. Now, if you are interested in seeing more of my gameplay and stuff, I did try to film this video originally on stream, but I hadn't seen the list yet, and I think this one is a big improvement on that. But if you do want to see the stream and stream VODs, put on notifications for the channel, or if you want to watch them back, you can join my membership where I make all of my streams available through that. All right, through the deck list, I'm going to run through really quickly just because I know some people don't want to hear all me talking about some of these cards. For 2Ks, you're going to run Sindri. I think with the new hogback, you don't need to run 4 Sindri. I think 3 is probably the hot spot, but I also really wanted to run Hiyori just because Hiyori can put Gecko Moria into your life, and I'll explain a really strong combo that you can do with the Gecko Moria in your life later on. You're also going to run the hogback, like I said. Ryuma, really strong trigger and a solid body to get out early if you're going first. Perona, 3 of the new Perona. I think Perona is really strong with the new hogback, although you can sometimes fill up your trash a little bit too quickly with the hogback, so you do have to be careful about that, which is one of the reasons why you also run the Kumasi 2K. And then to round out the 2Ks, you're also going to run Perona, and Perona does let you force your opponent to trash a card from your hand, which is really strong right now with all of these 5 life leaders who are typically going to be at 5 or more cards in their hand. It also lets you reduce the power, or not power, the cost of something, so that you can use the other Perona to freeze it in case the cost is too high. You're going to run this hogback, which lets you put cards back into your deck, which is going to be really strong, especially if you're at risk of decking out due to the hogback and the Sindris. That's one of the reasons why I don't have Sindri super high, is because it is super easy to deck out with that. Going to run this 6-cost Gecko Moria. The 6-cost Gecko Moria is really strong when you play out the 4-cost Rona Zoro, because Zoro lets you trash typically one of your Thriller Bark Pirates that you want in trash to play off of a trigger and then heal a life. Really strong combo. It also lets you attach it onto your leader, so you don't really need to worry about putting these Zoros in trash just because you can play it out off of Moria. Another card that I think is really good, just because I think the Zoro might be expensive when it comes out, is the Hiyori. The combo off of the Moria isn't as impactful just because you do have to wait for the Hiyori to get KO'd, and the Hiyori does come out rested, but you can always play it off of the Gecko Moria trigger, which is something I see red-yellow Sabo players doing, which is really sick. You're gonna run 2 Lilith. I think the deck doesn't need as much searching just because you run the hogback and the Sindri now, but sometimes you do just need to search out like a Boa or something. You're gonna run 4 Kumasi, like I said, 2 Hiyori for putting that Gecko into life to get really good triggers off, maybe a Boa if you really need to get something into life and you just aren't seeing anything. You're gonna run the standard package for Gecko and the Thriller Slop package, and Absalom, hogback, and Perona, all at 4 ofs. You're gonna run 3 of Zoro, really strong just because you can play it off of this trigger from Gecko Moria and play it out off of the 6-cost Gecko Moria. Insanely strong. I really like that combo. Gonna run even more healing in the Boa Hancock. Boa is a really good way to help yourself kind of finish out the game, and then to kind of make the triggers a little bit more consistent is this 1 Brick Bat. I know I preach against 1-ofs in this card game, but I think this is fine just because it is kind of just in there for triggers to be a little bit more consistent. So it's kind of like a 5th Kumasi in a way. So you can think about it like that if you want me to justify including a 1-of. I know I do speak out against them a lot. Anyways, I hope that gave you a really good rundown of how the deck should play. If you do want to see me playing the deck and explain a little bit more about how it plays and what you want to do, stay tuned for some gameplay. If not, please make sure to give the video a like if you like the deck list. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave a comment down below with any feedback you have, and subscribe if you want to support the channel in the long term. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and on to the gameplay. All right, we are playing into the deck to beat right now for this set in Purple Enel, Penelope, as some people have been calling it. I think that's a great name for it. They're gonna go first, which is really good for them, but I see a nice even curve and a Sindri to play on turn 1. I'm gonna keep this even though it's a little bit of a risky hand. I don't have a ton to put a ton of cards to put into trash, but I do have the Sindri, which should get me a trigger in trash just so it's a little safer to take the damage. In this matchup, you really want to search out your 4-cost Peronas. Remember, I guess they're all 4-cost, so the yellow Peronas, just because it does let you freeze the opponent's Enels, the 6-cost Enels, which are really strong. All right, and let's see what we got in trash. We did get just an Absalom and Kumasi for things we can play off of triggers, which is a little bit rough just because we can expect 2 swings to come at me. Now, Anel's one of the reasons that there are so many 2Ks in this deck, because Anel does love to attach a bunch of Don to one of his characters. It's a little bit of an interesting play. Cannot swing with that Holly this turn. Probably a misclick. But it loves to swing 6Ks, so running a lot of 2Ks is really important. All right, now I've got 6 cards in trash, so this Perona isn't going to be a great play, although it does let me swing 7 at my opponent and get a blocker up, which could be really helpful. I do think that getting this Moria in hand, which I already do have, is pretty important just because I can play a 2K Perona off of it to make my opponent trash a card. So I'm just going to play this and give my leader a Don. I want to play pretty defensively until the mid game, where I can kind of switch to pressuring my opponent a little bit more, and this lets me develop a blocker, so in case they swing a 5K at me, I can just eat it for free, and then I will pass here. Next turn, I'll probably just play the Gecko Moria, which will then probably play a Perona. I could even play an Absalom if I want to boost up my board, although I will have a 6K swing anyway. Although 7Ks are probably what you want to swing into Anel a little bit more often than not, just so you can get the more cards out of hand. I did just realize I forgot to switch to the in-game view in my OBS, so I'll do that now. Sorry about that. It probably made cards a little bit hard to read. All right, so I definitely want to eat this double attack swing with my blocker or just counter out of it. Would have been nice if I could leave up a Don for the Brickbat next turn, or this turn, but I don't think I'm in a huge danger. This turn they will probably play the 6-cost Anel. They have a lot of cards in hand, so it's pretty likely. Nope, another Holly comes out. That's pretty interesting. They must be kind of like not seeing the right cards right now, which is pretty rough for them. All right, they're gonna reduce my Perona, so it is a little bit more valuable to kind of just block with it the big swing that comes out from Holly. When they're gonna rest it, they could prevent it from activating, which would be kind of scary. All right, they're only attaching 2 Don to it, so countering out with a Hiyori is a pretty easy idea, although they could always attach more and just be playing a little bit slower than I'm used to, which is fine. All right, no, just sending a 6 at me. I'm gonna counter out of this. It is pretty likely that I have to take 2 more swings. Just gonna send 1 at me and clear my Perona, actually. That's kind of fine by me. I know I'm really low on cards in hand, but I do have this play where I can just play out this Perona and attach a Don to my leader and force my opponent to trash a card. It's gonna be really good. I can swing into the Holly here and just pressure board, which is gonna probably be better than swinging out life, just because swinging out life gives my opponent more cards in hand. Again, couldn't leave up a Don or Brickbat, which is a little rough, but getting some value here. I probably do have to take a double attack swing at my leader this turn, depending on how my opponent plays, just because it would be an 8 coming at my life from the Holly. I have been able to stick at 4 life for a little bit, which is pretty good. I'm not sure if I would have been better to take one of the earlier swings, just so I could possibly get a trigger and another body out on board, but right now I feel pretty decent about where I am at in the game. Next turn I can always Moria and play out something, although I don't have a Perona yet, which is something that's going to be really important. They did forget to attach a Don for Divine Departure to their leader or to Holly, which is really rough. Really unfortunate for my opponent. Probably not the highest quality game to show off this deck right now, but it should still be a challenge just because of this 8K coming at my life. It's gonna send it out my Perona. I really don't mind that. The threat to life is a lot scarier. All right, and we see a Hogback, which is gonna let me fill up my trash even more. Another Hogback. All right, let's see what we got. I do really want to see one of these Peronas in trash early here. Fortunately, I don't. I still have 27 cards in trash. Kind of don't mind doing it again, and I still don't think we have a Perona in trash. That's really, really rough. This turn I am going to Hogback and put some stuff at the bottom of my deck. It's 8-cost Moria, and then the only thing we can grab is not Sindri. Okay, I was on the wrong page. I'm gonna grab a 2K Perona, I think, just so I can have a little more counter in hand. Alternatively, I could just grab a 6-cost Gecko Moria and use that to heal on a future turn. It would have probably been better to KO a Hogback first so I can see what I draw off of it, but I think the counter here is just good. Draw 1, and nice, we see a 6-cost Gecko Moria. That was what I was thinking about grabbing, so I have no complaints there. I'm going to start with an 8K swing into this Holly, kind of tax my opponent's hand here, or I get it. Keeping my opponent from getting these big characters with the double attack swings is going to be really, really valuable. I do have the Moria heal where I can develop 2 bodies, so if I only take 1 hit, I think it's pretty safe for me to heal. All right, and then here I'm going to swing a 6 instead of a 5, just because I actually don't want my opponent to take it here. They do, unfortunately, which is kind of rough for me. I was really hoping they'd get one of the 2K events out of hand instead of taking that life, but they probably feel pretty comfortable considering we're both at the same life now, although I have a much better board in my opinion, though Anel can develop a really, really good board really, really quickly, so maybe not the best idea to swing at life there. I do have a hogback, which I can KO next turn. So off of Moria, it's much safer to just play a 4 cost that develops me something rather than the Perona combo. Though, now that my opponent does have one of these 6 cost Nels out, it's going to be really, really important for me to play out the Peronas and start looping them off of the 2 big Morias that I have. All right, we're going to have a 6 and a 6 coming at me. I think I do take the first 6 just because I do need to see some other stuff out of some other cards. Here, I do not know quite what to play. I think I play the Perona so I can play another Sindri maybe, or I can just play the 4 cost Perona and force my opponent to trash a card. I think that's going to be the best play here because it really prevents my opponent from getting too far ahead of me. Now they have to trash a card, which is really, really strong. I think this is one of the strongest combos into an L, is just looping this 4 cost Perona and the other yellow 4 cost Perona, forcing my opponent to keep a small hand and then preventing these 6 cost Nels from swinging. All right, we're gonna get a 6 swung somewhere, maybe at the Moria. At the Moria, I think I might just let it go. I don't want to give my opponent a ton of resources. All right, is that the Perona? I think I'm fine with letting this go. I just swing up board this turn and then try and like get some life too. All right, and Lightning Dragon does prevent my 6 cost Moria from reactivating, which is kind of scary. All right, we see a Perona. This is probably the best thing we could have seen here. I'm going to KO this hogback. We draw into another hogback. I think I'm at a pretty good spot trash-wise, so I'm not going to do anything crazy there. But I think I do start with a 6 at this Ohm. Assume my opponent will block it. They won't. It's kind of fine. I'm going to play out this Moria and then play out a Zoro, I think, so I can heal a life. Yeah, and then I will trash the Brickbat from, actually I think I'll trash the Hogback from my hand. I don't really need to use it anymore. Gain a life, and then I can play this to prevent the Annul from attacking. I'm just going to try and bait my opponent into not blocking here. A lot of people think that the Perona prevents the Annul from blocking. It doesn't. Prevents it from attacking. Little knowledge check for my opponent. Next turn, I can just pop the Perona, freeze something after I swing with it, probably this Annul, and then play it out again with this Moria. I'm not too concerned about my life, especially if I'm just like clearing this little body and swinging at life from now on. This is the point where I can play a little more aggressively now that I'm able to loop these Peronas really, really well. I do have a full board, which is a little scary. So if my opponent swings into one of my bodies like the Hogback, I just let it go. I mean, it frees me up a spot and eats an attack. It's kind of like a blocker. And I think that generates the most value for me here. Next turn, I probably do want to leave a Dawn open just in case they swing huge at my life or at one of the bodies I care about. All right, let's see what they trash off of this NL. I feel really, really good about this deck list compared to the other one. The other one felt okay into NL, but it just kind of didn't get off the ground. Like the engine that was required took a little bit too much to set up, and being able to just heal off of this Zoro for just trashing a card, something that costs 3 Dawn typically, feels really good, especially because it's a 6k, and 6ks are really strong right now, just because, I mean, Ace is still meta, and then the NL, if it wants to clear these bigger bodies, has to swing the 6k into it, which is a 1k counter. And like I said here, I just let this go. I don't really mind because I do want to protect this. I think I will 2k out. I'm going to swing at the 5 with the Perona, pop the Perona to freeze this Annel, and then replay out the Perona with the Moria. And I feel like that's going to be really strong here. So I'm actually going to swing into the Pudding first, and then I'm going to KO the Perona, freeze that, and then deploy the 8 cost Perona, or 8 cost Gecko, and replay out the Perona to freeze this Annel. And I can just kind of keep, I mean, at this point, the tide of the turn, the tide of the game should really turn. I'm going to start with a 7, and then do a couple 8s at my opponent. A 7, leave a Dawn up, 2 7s, and then 8s at my opponent is what I kind of meant. All right, then another swing. And if they don't block this one, I just don't swing with the Moria, just because they should block this next swing. All right, and after this, it should be kind of game. Like, I could trigger something out. Maybe they can swing at my life. Here I just pass. They're gonna just eat the attack with the 10k NL, but they can't attack, so my opponent's kind of screwed. They could play the rush character and try and clear my board, but I do have a 3k counter for one of my Morias. It will clear the Zoro, unfortunately, but I don't really hate more space on the board. Like I said, I'm playing out a ton of characters at this point in the game and just filling up my board over and over again. These 6 cost and 8 cost Morias are kind of the star of the show at this point in the matchup, which really good when you see them. When you don't see them, it feels really, really rough. That's one of the reasons why the Hogbacks, the 4 cost Hogbacks, are in the deck. I think Abster had them at 4 of, and I think that feels good. I think I'd love to find space in my list to find at least 3 for the list, but at this point it's kind of like you see them, you don't. It really does kind of mess up the game if you don't, though, in certain matchups, just because being able to flood the board is so effective into now, for example, even Luffy, probably the new yellow Luffy. I haven't played too much into it, but I also expect this 2k Perona to be good into it, just because they're a 5 life leader. They're going to stick at have 5 cards in hand for a while, and then they do play out the bigger bodies that you can freeze with reducing their cost. Right, they actually don't draw anything off of the pudding. That's really good for me. And they're gonna probably just try and nuke the... That's fine. I can protect it with the event. And then I should just have game here. I'll swing a 5, pop it, maybe a 6 to bait out an event in hand, or 2Ks. All right. I do have 1 blocker and 2 cards in hand. I think I'm in a pretty good spot to just go for game. And they disconnect and concede. Yeah, I had game there. Feels really, really good into Enel. I was actually struggling on stream earlier to beat the Enel, and I think this deck list just feels way better. 2 triggers in life feels pretty good too, and a Zoro in life, so I would have been able to heal with that after I took that life. Although sitting around 3 life is generally what you want to do with this deck, because if the opponent is going wide, which is a lot of the meta right now, you see a lot of these decks going really wide, and then you can't even swing at their board because they'll just take their life, like the Rosinante and the yellow Luffy, the new yellow Luffy. Going wider faster than them is really important, and staying at higher life is really important as well. Anyways, I'm gonna play one more game and then kind of do a deck reflection, talk a little bit more about the deck, and update everyone. All right, we are playing into a Brook. I think into Brook you just need to kind of play faster than them and get stuff out on the board better. I think this is a fine keep. Trash some things. I don't see anything great in trash, to be honest. I will play out this Perona if I see a trigger, but the Perona just probably goes at face, like constantly going at face. The 7K swing should be really impactful. Getting these swings out, the 6Ks, so I can just buff them up by carrying a character is probably going to be really good. Right, they're searching a lot, getting some stuff in trash. Right, wow, okay. See a lot of the Morias early, which is kind of scary. It's not even worth it for me to trash or KO this Hogback yet, just because I'm not going to be able to buff my board at all. I think next turn it might make sense. Put a 5. No trigger, that's pretty rough too. I'm in a pretty kind of rough spot. My opponent is really going through their stuff quick, and I am in Brick City right now. I can potentially Zoro and just try and outlast my opponent, but I don't know if it's gonna work. All right, trash some more, and we do get a Perona in trash, which is nice. Don't think it's that impactful in this matchup though. I will Zoro and pitch a Moria to gain 1 life, and then I will KO this Hogback, doesn't really matter which one, and swing 6, bumps me up so I can take another leader swing and kind of not even worry. Although my opponent is getting to the point where they're maybe looking to set up for game in like 2 or 3 turns. So I think the way you play this matchup is to either stay really, really healthy so you can take that last turn swing out really like well, or to just play really, really quickly and swing into them a ton. Right, I think I take here. I don't have any 2Ks. Getting kind of rough. I'll start by playing some Liliths to try and search out some triggers. Get a Hogback out. I think the Hogback's going to be really impactful. The Hogback, draw 1, and then I'll Lilith again. I may as well, and get another Hogback. I think that's good too, and I can swing 2 7s. And next turn I can play a Moria to kind of go wide at my opponent. I'm hoping I get a blocker here off of this Zoro, because I don't have any way to rest blockers. That's something that'd be really, really powerful in this deck, and making sure my opponent doesn't have that many blockers is going to be really, really helpful. This turn we probably see the Luffy that puts my opponent to a 7K. All right, and they actually disconnect. So I think, yeah, because they didn't see the Luffy on that turn, it's pretty rough for them. It is kind of a luck-based matchup a lot of the time for both the Brook and the Moria. I had a pretty decent amount of triggers in life, which is really nice. Anyways, I know this was kind of an anticlimactic end to the video, but I am going to go do the deck reflection and talk a little bit more about how I feel about Gecko in the meta and things like that. All right, here's that list one more time. I hope you liked it. I do think the extra 2Ks feel pretty good into Enel, but if you can see this Perona, at least 2 of them, Enel kind of gets shut out of the game. So I think cutting these Hioris down might be a really good idea, to maybe add in some Liliths to make searching out the Peronas a little more consistent. But right now, Gecko feels decent. I think Gecko is pretty good. It's definitely a deck that can top at a regional, for example. I don't know if I'm super drawn to it, unfortunately. I really think the deck is really cool, and I might be just the newness of OP15, but I don't really get how it should play into a lot of those decks. But I'm having a total blast playing it, so I'm going to keep trying. And if you, the viewer, want to keep trying and let me know what you think, that would be really, really helpful. I am always looking to get feedback on the lists and see what other people think. I do think maybe the Boa could be cut out and maybe add in some more Zoro, and the Borsalinos. I think more healing is going to be better, and the Boa doesn't really do a ton in this meta, especially because a lot of these decks are very happy to take their life and get more resources. I think Hogback is something I'd like to bump up. I definitely think Hiyori is something that could be cut. If I were to make another video on this, I would probably cut out the Hiyori in a heartbeat. Anyways, if you like the video, please consider giving it a like. It really does help out and really encourages me to keep making content. If you want to support the channel in the long term, please consider subscribing. I really, really appreciate the growth that I've gotten within the past couple of weeks and even months. I have totally exploded, and I'm really, really motivated. I do have a video coming soon where I kind of talk about nationals and what I learned. I feel like I learned a ton. I've actually gone undefeated at 3 locals since nationals, which is just something that I didn't really do often, mainly because I played not meta decks, but also when I'm not playing meta decks as well, I topped on Purple Yellow Robin the other day. But yeah, if you want to hear more about that, see more improvement videos, please consider subscribing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.